I'm Naomi. I'm going to guide you through a short tutorial for how to do a basic 6-point diamond star. So you've got your fabric and you've got your paper template. You're going to lay your template onto your fabric and you're going to cut around it. I tend to cut mine with around about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. But you do what you prefer to do. You might want to do slightly less. I think sometimes it depends on how big the fabric is that you're cutting your shape out from and how much of it you want to save for later, or whether they're scraps, in which case you might have much smaller seam allowance. So put this on top. I like to use binding clips to hold my paper templates into place, partly because I think pins can wiggle around a little bit too much, and I think it makes the template last just that maybe one use longer if you're not adding extra holes with pins. I'm going to show you how to thread baste, but if you want to glue baste, that's absolutely fine. It's just finding what works for you. So I've used 2 clips here, and I always start and finish from the back of my work. So I'm going to fold this over and really use my thumbs to push it down and finger press it, so I get a really nice crisp fold over. And then I'm going to dig my nail right into this corner here, so that when I'm folding it over, I'm keeping this point really crisp. There, and push that over. And it's once I've got this first thing that I'll then start basting. So I go in from the back, so that my starting knot is on the back of my work. I then come up maybe 1/8 of an inch long. And then what I want to do to trap this fold into place, you want to then take your thread over this corner and baste it back down through that corner. So see how my thread's now holding that fold in place? So that's not going to loosen, it's going to keep that point nice and crisp. Then I always come back up halfway along this side of the shape. I work anti-clockwise, but if you want to work clockwise, then that's fine. What works for you. And then I'll take this clip off, and again I'm just going to use my nails and really fold that over crisp there, and then push it down so I know it's securely held. And then I take my needle back down so that my thread's then holding that fold into place. Take this one off, come back up halfway through, halfway along the length of your template, finger press it, use your nail to make the crease, fold it over, and use your thread to hold that fold in place. And then your final one, come back up, halfway along. This is the bit where it gets just a little bit fiddly. Just use your nails again, or your thumb, or if you don't have a nail, that's fine. I don't, because I had a bit of nat stump with the rotary cutter, and the rotary cutter 1. Go back down, come back up, and then knot it so that both my knots, starting and finishing, are on the back of my work. So just go through once, knot it, cut it, and here. It's your basted 6-point diamond. And see here how your tails, one's going that way and one's going this way. If yours go the other way, that's absolutely fine. The key thing is that you want to make sure when you've got 6 diamonds, all 6 of your diamonds have tails that are going in the same way. So you can see here, all 6 diamonds have been basted because I worked in the same anti-clockwise direction. The key to them all going this way means that when you're sewing them together, you can then nest these seams. So when you place them like this, and they'll all go in the round, if they're going to sit still, which they're not. Whereas if they were all going in different directions, it wouldn't necessarily nest as well. So I always try and match my thread to at least one of the fabrics. If I was sewing this in the green and this in the purple, so long as it wasn't a pink thread or a red thread, try and match it to one of the fabric colours. and I find that personally helps to hide some of my stitches. So take 2 of your diamonds and place them right sides together, and I'm making sure my points are lining up here and lining up here. So at this point that I use a clip to hold this point together. I've lined it up, I've made sure it's in place, and I'm using this to hold it whilst I sew along. I sew from left to right because to me that's the direction you write in, so it makes more sense to me. If you want to say right to left, just move your clip across and you're clipping it there. So here, and again, when I start and finish my sewing, I actually start probably about 3/8 of an inch in from the edge, and this is because I've knotted here, but I don't want my knot to be on this weak point, which is here. When you open this up, if your knot is down here, there is a small chance that it could pop through. So what I like to do is I start 3/8 of an inch along, and I'm just going through the very 2 edges of the 2 fabrics, and I'll just do 1 stitch to hold it in place, and then I'll just come back to this point here and then start. And then I'm just going to sew along here. So these diamonds are 1 inch diamonds, which means each edge is 1 inch, and you want to do around about 12 to 16 stitches per inch. So I'm just sewing along, taking the very 2 edges of the fabric, making sure I'm not sewing through the paper. And I'm also pulling my thread nice and tightly. I find that helps again to make sure my stitches aren't visible. When you're coming up close to the clip, at that point I tend to get rid of it. So here, this little fold, it might be getting in your way, just bend it back and use your finger there to hold it into place, and then continue sewing all the way up to your point. Make sure your needle's nice and sharp, because that will make sure it guides through your fabric. You can see mine isn't sharp enough here, so I'm struggling to get it through. And then when you get down to this point, you just want to secure this, just in case your thread breaks or anything. So before you pull your thread all the way through, leave a little loop, and I just go through this loop twice. So go through once, go through twice, and I've just done a little knot here to hold it in place. Then when it opens up, you can see that because both your tails are going in this way, they've nested nicely on top of each other. Then I'm not going to cut my thread. Rather than cutting and starting, I'm going to take my next diamond and place it on top here. Again, I want to make sure my seams are all lined up right. I'm going to fold that over so it's right sides together, and I'm just going to continue sewing, folding this tail out of the way, adding my clip here. I then continue sewing this third shape onto it. Just do another little knot through the loop twice when you join in your new shape, again just to secure it at that point, and then continue to sew up. Point here. And then when you get to that point, that's when you'll knot and finish your thread. So I'm sewing all the way up to the corner, and then for the same reason that I didn't start my thread, the knot in the corner, I'm then going to do an extra stitch just in the corner, and then I'm going to take it back about 3/8 of an inch so that my knot isn't in that weak point. And then I'm going to finish it off by going twice through the loop, pull in, cut in, and then that's your first half of the 6-point diamond. So once pressed, obviously because we folded them out the way when sewing, but when pressed they should all be going in the same direction. You can see that's helping them to nest on top of each other. So that's your first half done. You're then going to repeat it with the next 3 so that your second half is done. And they are your 2 halves. Make sure your tails are nesting on top of each other nicely. And here. And then because your tails have all gone in the same direction, these are just going to nest on top of each other like this. So to join your 2 halves together, place them right sides together, and then I'm sewing left to right, but just flip it around if you're doing it the other way. I'm going to use my binding clip to hold this edge where I've lined it up in place here. I'm then making sure that this centre bit is all lined up, and I'm just going to fold that fabric out of the way so I can clearly see what I'm doing. I then use a clip to hold that in place. So I know that these key points where I want my pieces to meet are being held in place as I start to sew towards them. So I'm just going to add a couple of knots to this. And then I'll join my 2 halves together. So starting 3/8 of an inch in, so my knot isn't on the weak point. I'm just going to take a couple of stitches so I can make sure it's held in place there. And then I'm just going to go back to the beginning here. And I will be changing my needle after this video, as I'm being publicly shamed for not changing it often enough. And then I'm just going through. Again, sewing through the very edges of the fabric, not going through the papers. And I'm going to try and get as close to this clip without removing it as I can do, just so I can make sure that point is held in place for as long as possible. It's probably about here I'll take it off, but I'm really using my finger and my thumb to hold this in place just to ensure that point. Can be a little bit fiddly because you've got these tails all in place, but they do also help to line it up, so just pull them back. Continue passing the thread through. And I'm just really making sure at this point here that I'm going through the right fabrics to hold them in place. And you might have to do a bit of pulling these tails out of the way. I also think don't stress, no one's going to look too closely at it. So if it's not perfect, life isn't perfect. Oh, how corny was that? Anyway, it'll be fine. Add a button or a sequin, no one will notice. And then I'm just going to continue sewing up to my next binding clip. And I'm going to sew all the way up to the end, do my twice through the loop knot, and then take it back 3/8 of an inch to finish my thread there, so that my actual finishing knot is not on the weak point. Go twice through my knot, stick my needle in the pincushion, cut it, and then ta-da! The 6-point diamond. Give it a good press. Make sure when you press it, you press all your tails that they're going in the same direction, and this will really help to nest them on top of each other so that that'll lie flat. And there you go. Okay, so you've got your basted 6-point diamond. I've also gone ahead and basted 6 purple diamonds in exactly the same way I did the green ones, so all of my tails are going in the same direction because I basted in the same anti-clockwise direction. So to make this up into your 6-point diamond star, almost hexagon shape then, this is just going to pop on here. So I'm going to start here. Again, I'm sewing left to right because it's the way I write in. Make sure this all lines up, and then fold over here. So I've got my purple diamond just lying directly on top of my green diamond, right sides together. I then pop a clip holding it here to make sure that both points are still going to meet here. And then using my needle, I'm just going to bend this tail out of the way, start 3/8 of an inch in. I've got a few knots on the end of my tail here, on my thread tail. I'm just going to take an extra stitch to make sure my knot's secure, 3/8 of an inch in. And then I'm going to go back to this point here. And what you're going to do is you're going to continue sewing. I'm just using a whip stitch. So I'm going through 2 of the fibres on each of the fabrics and just joining them together with a whip stitch, taking care not to go through my paper templates. And you can see I've continued to use this green thread because then it's matching one of my fabrics I'm going through. So I'm going to keep working my way up to this corner. Take this binding clip off. When you get to this point, you're just going to put another one of those knots in place just to secure it. So put your needle through, leave your loop of thread and pass your needle through that loop twice. Once, twice, pull. And then I'm now going to continue sewing up to here. So this point here, you are going to be bending this diamond so that you can then line up this next point. Then use your clip to hold it in place, and then you're going to continue sewing all the way up from here to that point there. And then when I get up to this point, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew all the way up to the point doing my whip stitch. I'm going to take an extra stitch in the same spot, but leave that loop of thread and pass your needle through twice. Once, twice, and put it to secure it. And then I'm not going to break my thread. I'm going to continue working my way around. I'm going clockwise, but you can go anti-clockwise if you prefer going that way. And I'm just going to do it without cutting and starting and stopping my thread. I'm just going to keep going. So you can see my tail's going up that way. This one's going down because I basted them all in the same direction. It's then just going to nest nicely on this point here. So I then place this on, right sides together, use my clip and continue to sew. And I would just continue to do that loop of thread and passing it through twice as a knot on each of my points. So here where I start it, here at the next point, and then up here. And then I'll join the next shape on again, do the knot here, here and here. This just helps to secure it at different points as you're sewing it around. And to finish it off, I've just done what I did at the start, where I've gone up to here, and then I'm just going to go back 3/8 of an inch so that my finishing knot isn't on the weak point, which is on the edge. So to finish off, going back 3/8 of an inch, I then just take an extra stitch, leave a loop of thread, and I'm just going to pass it through this loop twice. Once, twice, put it tight, find where I put my scissors, cut it, and there you go. You've finished 6-point diamond, star, hexagon, and any other names we can add into it.